The validation trap. What is the validation trap? Without me saying anything, I know you can already assume it's something to do with other people. Because, of course, I mean, where else do you get validation? Except if you're a self validator, and if you are one strong ass motherfucker. Salute to you. I'm one of those people. And to be that, you're going to get a lot of envy thrown your way for no reason, because people would love to be able to do that. It's just codependency is so deeply baked into like conversation and everything. So it's like people who self-validate easily attract the flies, so to speak, the parasites, and they like to suck blood. I'm gonna just say it like that. But anyway, yeah, it's very difficult to be a self-validator. But what if you're not a self-validator? What if validation is something that you just don't naturally bring for yourself? What if it's something that you need to get from other people because you don't know how to necessarily build it within, right? And usually this happens to people over time when they realize that their traits or things about them, they don't realize what they are, or they don't value them correctly, and they'd rather have somebody else's opinion replace their opinion of those traits. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. I mean, I'm somebody, even though I self-validate, I definitely like to get validation from other people when I've done something really, really creative and I want to share it. I would like to get their validation. Yeah, but it's not something I seek. You know, it just so happens to come as a result of me putting in effort. You know, that's just how that works. You don't really need to search for it or like work for somebody else's validation, because that's a trap. And that's exactly what I'm about to get on. So what exactly is the validation trap? The idea of it is that you believe that you can change other people's perception. Now, it is possible. It is possible. It's not like it's impossible. It is possible to change someone else's perception, so long as you are very believable and what you say hits them in the heart, and they take for what you say for what it is, and, you know, accept it and probably learn from it, right? That changes somebody's perception the normal way. There are other ways that are not so easy or humane. I'll just say it like that. But the fact that you believe that that's something you should live to do, or something you should seek to do in life, is the biggest mistake you will ever make. The biggest mistake you'll ever make. Because people are aware of others' need for validation. And so when you picture somebody looking for someone else's perception and doing everything they can to please them, right? The people pleaser epidemic that we've seen around here, which needs to end. I've fallen for that too, and it ended quick, because no way. But you feel like you can please people to change their perception. You feel like you can do this and that to change their perception. You feel like you can buy their perception. You feel like you can woo them into a different perception. The reality is that you cannot force any human to do anything. You can only incentivize them. So to say that lightly, a way that that's done through this system is by getting you to chase money or monetary value, so that way you have to seek the perception of those who would give it to you, which so happens to be managers or people in authoritative positions like supervisors or owners of something, right? Something that you would seek to use or be a part of. The idea that you need to chase their perception, though, is false, because that's essentially the validation trap. You're trying to make them see you in a certain light, and when they figure that you're doing this, you give yourself to them indirectly. You are coerced by them. You give them control over your thoughts, over your heart, essentially, which means your emotions, and you give them control over how you operate, so long as you continue to seek their validation. But you can't change their perception if they choose not to change it. If they want to think of you as a goddamn garbage can, that is what they will think of you. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do about that. If they see you as a tree, you're a tree to them. If they see you as the opposite sex, you're the opposite sex to them, as ridiculous as that sounds. But you see what I'm saying? There's nothing you can do about their perception. It's their perception. Unless you are them, unless you have their brain, unless you have full control over it, you don't change their perception. You can't even manage it. You can't do anything to it. It's their perception. So when you think of it like this, perception really isn't much to be fancied with. It's just perception. It's just somebody's perspective. It's an opinion. Do you care about others' opinions? I think not. The word is no different than a perception. So, there really is no need to put value in something that's equal to an opinion, if it's just an opinion from somebody. You see what I'm saying? Now, yes, there are some people who have some sort of status in this system. Yes, that's true. Because we live in a hierarchy, a racist hierarchy. So, yes, if you want to have certain things, you should probably be more apprehendable, I'll say. So that way you can at least coexist and work with those who would allow you to be in certain positions that would be beneficial to you. But the idea that you think you can change their perception is a lie. It's a trap to have control over your life. And that's essentially what everybody has fallen into. There is something that you want from somebody, and you think that the only way you could possibly gain their approval is to seek their validation. And the reality is that all you're doing is letting them control you for that time period until you realize there is nothing you could have ever done about them seeing you in whatever light they see you in. Okay? It's better if you decide that you just self-validate and then you coexist with them. So that way you both seek each other's validation somewhat, but you don't rely on it. You rely on your own validation to keep yourself autonomous and to keep your own emotions regulated and to keep yourself sated, to know that you are valuable and you're worth what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? Every human is equal. But we don't administer this knowledge. We tell each other, no, you seek my validation because I'm better than you. By whatever arbitrary standards that is, by whatever bullshit standards they've created for you. And if you believe it, you better believe they think you're stupid. You better believe they think you're dumb. And you better believe they will try to control your life. And the more you let it happen, the more their perception changes of you despite whatever you're doing, until the point they just straight up dehumanize you. Ridiculous. But it's because we don't live in an empathetic society. We don't value each other correctly. We don't administer love, at least to uphold the livelihood of everybody. Yes, you can self-love, but to have true empathy for everybody in your society, you need to love them to a point to where you just advocate for their life. You don't have to like them. You don't have to seek them. But just so long as you can be enough of yourself to allow them to live and be themselves, and then you be yourself, then you're okay to just coexist without necessarily going at their expense. The thing is that people don't don't think that that's how it's supposed to be because of years of programming, right? The programming is telling you to be performative. I see performance as a bait into falling for perception and validation trap, right? It's a bait to make you feel like if you do this, you'll be in with that crowd or you'll be good with those kind of people. But that's not true. They can still have whatever perception of you that they want. So, performance does it at the most. It makes you less. It makes you less of a highlight. You have less eyes on you if you perform because a lot of people perform. They see it as the easy route to validation from other people. And they want that maintained forever because it makes their life feel easy. But because everybody does the same goddamn thing, it's so cringe and boring that people don't even give a fuck if you perform. It's just performance. I see performance and performative evil as a bait. Don't think that doing any act sadistically because other people value sadistic humor changes their perception either. That includes like the bullying and whatever. If you feel like that's gonna change their perception, it's not. They're just gonna be like, oh, you can conjure up that kind of humor. Oh, I like that. So they'll probably want to be around you a bit more, but their perception of you doesn't change. If they still think you are a fuck bitch, then you're a fuck bitch. What are you gonna do about that? So it's either you find people who respect you and who value themselves as well as you value yourself as you coexist, which is a better format to be around. You don't want to be around people that are indirectly trying to get you to fall for their validation and thinking that you can change their perception over time. It's better to be around people who self-validate so that way you coexist and that you have much better conversation that is surrounded around at least maintaining coherence without coming at each other's expense. You could still be sadistically humorous. You could still joke around. You could still do this and that. But if you feel like you're being taken from more than you are putting forward, I don't think that you're in a very healthy relationship with whoever you're with or wherever you're at, right? Say it be a job or maybe a church or some community program where they're making you seek their validation. But it's like a loop, basically. So you think that the longer you stay trying to perform for whoever it is you're trying to change the perception of and seek their validation, you feel like the longer you stay doing that over time, their perception will change, or that maybe they'll be a little nicer to me later on, or maybe I'll be able to do this with them later on. Now, evidence and history does show that does kind of happen, but it only adds very few or sparse things to your life from those people. Usually you're not gonna get much. I mean, unless the person is just, oh, well, they did all this stuff, so I guess I should do this for them. Most people don't think like that. They just, oh, you're giving me all of this stuff. I just don't even care about your life. Just go ahead, keep giving me stuff. You're a fucking retard. And that's how they'll think of you. Okay? Doesn't matter what you do. Now, yes, if you're humorous, there's some nuance to that, but again, there's not much you can do, okay? Unless there's somebody who at least administers or they deafen their ego in the situation so they don't feel like they have to be above people or above you, right? If they can at least deafen it to a minimum or to an equilibrium so that way the balance of that social group can stay maintained without going at the expense of anyone. Those are better people to be around, because then, yes, there is some legitimacy to say their perception can be changed, because they're not a one-track minded kind of person. They can change their perception on somebody based on truthful evidence or based on consistency, which is a good thing. But not everybody does this. I would say most people don't do that. They have a very unhealthy system of seeking others as a result of years of no accountability for trying to control people, because the system allows that. People are basically allowed to demean and dehumanize each other as much as they want, because it's not a criminal offense and it's not socially it's not seen as a social stigma or as an issue that's too much to be dealt with. It's just seen as behavior and normal. But the reality is that stuff ain't normal, okay? Humans are not supposed to try to control other humans. I don't know where we got this idea, but I mean, if we look at the past, slave culture is definitely an issue. I don't know. I feel like that's just where it stems from, honestly. The fact that people feel like they need slaves to do things because they don't know how else to get them to want to help each other. And because there are a lot of humans who just refuse to learn very specific things because they feel like there's another route, so long as there are manipulable people on this planet, they'll always feel like I can just find somebody to control and that's all I need to do. Because they're basically weaponizing things like laziness against you, and of course things like you seeking their validation or you needing things for yourself and weaponizing your basic needs against you. Little caveats to narcissism there, but it's more dependent on the kind of person you're around and what things they do as you're around them. You don't necessarily have to discern their personality type, although that would help you to figure if they're gonna try to make you beg for their validation. But it's better to just not take it so serious, because people are really, really, really sick when it comes to this stuff. So don't get trapped in the loop of thinking you can change their perception, because you can't. You just can't. Unless you have mind control, you cannot change their perception. The most you can do is figure out how they think and what they value, and then try to convince them to follow your train of thought so they would seek your advice, and then you can route them to think a certain way about whatever it is. But unless you have convinced them to seek you in life as like a role model or something, they're not going to keep doing that. And the more you try to control them with that behavior, the more they're going to not trust you, and the more you lose that influence you thought you had. So if you're somebody trying to force someone to seek your validation, you're also a fool, because people are getting much wiser. I would say manipulation has already lost a great deal of its effect. It's just not, it's not as potent as it was. I mean, everybody knows what gaslighting and triangulation is, dude. Like, it's old. It's fucking retarded even. Like, you ask me, it's not gonna do you any good. People know what you're doing. It's like, all they have to do is see your actions. They're not playing on naivety anymore. You don't really have benefit of the doubt anymore, because their lives are now at stake. People are really fucking crazy, man. Like, they're using those stuff to try to get people in really bad positions. They want to see some harm, dog. I'm not somebody who wants to see that. But, you know, there's not much you can do about people. So don't seek their perception. Don't seek to change it. Don't seek their validation, because there's not much you can do. Seek your own validation, self-validate, and then let them react to you, not you react to them. All right? So all I wanted to get on, I've learned this lesson myself. I did at one point try to seek somebody's perception or a group's perception and see if I could change it. You can't. Yes, they'll play the part for the time being to groom you into thinking, but later on their character is revealed, and if they don't really care for you, you'll see that and you'll figure it out. You'll realize that no, there's no point in even trying, dog. Like, They don't care. You can do all the knickknacks. You could be a jester. You could be a comedian. If they don't give a fuck, they don't give a fuck. Accept it. If you don't want to be around don't give a fuck people, then don't be around them, because you can't change their perception. So don't fall into the validation trap. All right. So I want to get on. Hope you guys learned something. I always like to give out my advice, because I know like it helps somebody. I mean, yes, you probably heard it from somebody else, but maybe my perspective is different this time. Maybe I've given a nuance you haven't heard. Maybe you just like the way I say it, or the way I emphasize it, because it's very serious, and not everybody understands the seriousness, because they don't see the really rash and horrible behaviors until the end, until it's almost too late. And most people don't make it out of that too late scenario. So I'm trying to save you before you even get to that, because who knows what can happen to you if that happens to you. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, yeah, hope you guys learned something, man. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.